What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Darren, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. We talk about fragrances and fashion on this channel, so if one of those two things or both of those things interest you, hit the subscribe button and also make sure you hit that bell icon as well to ensure you get notified when I upload new content on the channel. So guys, on today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the house of AMOUAGE. If you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you know that this is a fragrance house, a niche fragrance house that I hold in high regard. I think I have about 18 offerings from the house of AMOUAGE, so it's safe to say, I think it's safe to say that I'm a pretty big fan of the house. So what I want to do is just take a closer look at the 5 latest releases from the men's range of fragrances. Now, the house of AMOUAGE underwent a change. I think it was in late 2019, with the creative director, the old creative director Christopher Chong was replaced by RENAUD Salmon. And with that, of course, with change, of course, at the top comes change as it relates to the brand itself. So they've kind of gone in a little bit of a different direction. So I want to take a closer look at these last 5 offerings that were, again, created for the men's range of fragrances, just to really see, are these fragrances still worth it? Is AMOUAGE still AMOUAGE? That's what I want to answer that question for you guys today, in my opinion. So if you want to see my opinions on this topic, the house of AMOUAGE, are they still good? Are the fragrances still good? Are they still AMOUAGE? Are the fragrances still what makes AMOUAGE fragrances great? Do they still do those elements still make up these fragrances? We're going to find that out. I'm going to answer that question. So if you want to see my opinion, you know the routine, keep it locked right here. All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's go ahead and jump right into this video. So in the year of 2019, the previous creative director for the house of AMOUAGE, Christopher Chong, stepped down, and in came new creative director, RENAUD Salmon. The last fragrance that was created under the direction of Christopher Chong is the first fragrance that I want to talk about today, which I would say this for sure. Christopher Chong left his role from AMOUAGE with a bang with the release of this fragrance right here, which was Overture Man. Overture Man. And man, this thing comes out of the gates swinging. We're going to get into the fragrance in just a moment, but this is when they started to kind of change the presentation here with AMOUAGE fragrances. You see, instead of the traditional style, which oddly enough, the Black Iris, which we're going to talk about next, still held that particular style. I guess because of the original AMOUAGE fragrance was in this same style presentation, where you just kind of lift this off and the fragrance rests here in the bottom. This one right here has a flap on the side that you open it this way and the fragrance rests inside this in the box. It actually has a magnetic closure on it. But let's take a look at the fragrance of Overture Man. Now, I will tell you right now, this is not a mass appealing fragrance. This has the old kind of AMOUAGE way of doing fragrances written all over it. This thing opens up, is extremely complex. A lot of people, I will tell you right now, the average person that has a few fragrances in their collection probably is not going to like this fragrance. This is not for the casual fragrance lover. This is something that you really have to love. Fragrances that are very unique. This thing is very unique and challenging for some people in the opening, because to me it has a very prominent note of cumin. And if you don't know what cumin is, it can kind of, in a lot of fragrances, give off this really heavy, musky, some people even say almost a body odor kind of scent profile to it. Although to me it's there, but it's not off-putting in this fragrance. It's just the right amount of cumin for me, for it not to be off-putting. But I will tell you, the first 10 minutes of this fragrance is very challenging, but that's one of the things that a hardcore fan of AMOUAGE fragrances really love, that really unique, daring kind of approach to fragrances. Of course, this particular fragrance house, of course, has very heavy influence of Middle Eastern influences in their fragrance. So it's really, really heavy on spices, of course, primarily, of course, incense in a lot of their fragrances as well. And man, this thing is just, to me, it's a beautiful fragrance. The first 10 minutes, again, I will admit is a little bit challenging, but it's very, 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 very unique, masculine, spicy, and good. It has a nice boozy accord in here, although oddly enough, the boozy accord, I think from cognac, if I'm not mistaken, is not like over the top in this fragrance. So it's really, really balanced well with other notes like leather. Of course, again, the cumin in this fragrance as well, the incense in here. Beautiful scent. It's masculine, it's manly, and it's unique. So again, it was very much in line with what AMOUAGE had been doing in the previous years. So this is something that I think that they kind of stayed the course with typical AMOUAGE fashion. Guys, before we move forward to the next fragrance on this list, I want to say if you want to check out any of these fragrances from AMOUAGE, make sure you head over to Twisted Lily. They are the sponsor for today's video. And Twisted Lily has all of these fragrances, if I'm not mistaken, with the exception of Overture Man. But they have all the other fragrances here on that I'm going to talk about today in stock at Twisted Lily. Again, Twisted Lily is a place where you can buy full bottles, but again, how I discovered a lot of these fragrances is through sampling. So you can sample these fragrances for yourself. If you hear something that you like out of these 5 fragrances that I'm going to talk about today, make sure you head over to Twisted Lily. I'll make sure I link it down below, where you can check these fragrances out for yourself. All right, guys, the next fragrance that I want to talk about from the house of AMOUAGE, this was the first one that was done under the new direction of new creative director RENAUD Salmon. And he chose to go with a flanker from a very popular fragrance from AMOUAGE, which was Interlude Man, and we did Interlude Black Iris. Now, interestingly enough, he went back to the old presentation style of AMOUAGE fragrances with this box. Of course, when you remove the top of the box, the fragrance rests in the base of the box. Now, Interlude Man Black Iris, here is the bottle. I personally like this more than the original Interlude Man. You still have the base of the original, but this is a little bit more wearable in my opinion because of the black iris note. It gives this kind of creaminess to it, a little powdery, a little bit almost like a gourmand nuttiness that runs through the heart of this fragrance now. And again, just makes it, to me, more wearable. You still have the, I would say, the skeleton of the original Interlude Man in this fragrance. So you still get some of the good things that people really loved about that fragrance. But again, they made it more wearable. So high quality. So the quality was still there. Of course, the DNA of the original Interlude was there. So I wouldn't say that the fragrance house fell off at this point, because this was very reminiscent to the original, and they actually made it a little bit better. So I think I would give them an A+ for the first fragrance release under the new creative direction of RENAUD Salmon. Great job on Interlude Black Iris, because I actually, again, love that a little bit more than I actually like the original Interlude Man. So great job on that fragrance. Now, the next fragrance that I want to talk about came from, I think it was the Renaissance collection. And this one is underrated to me because scent profile wise, I think this is probably one of my favorites of all the fragrances that I'm going to talk about today. But this one was called Meander. Meander. Beautiful bottle. Again, went back to the flap with the magnetic closure here. Man, this is an absolute gorgeous fragrance. Let me let you take a look at this bottle, man, because the bottle is beautiful on this one right here. Check out that beautiful kind of mint green color on the bottle. Scent profile wise, this is my favorite. Scent profile wise, this was my favorite of all 5 fragrances that I'm going to talk about today, because this has a very unique note of carrot seeds in this fragrance. Now, to me, if I just sum this up, this fragrance to me smells like carrot cake. There's a slight kind of gourmand quality that I get from this fragrance, although I wouldn't say it's like a full-on gourmand, but there's a sweetness here. And again, that comes from the sandalwood in this fragrance, as well as the carrot seeds. A very unique scent profile. Oh man, spicy. in the opening as well. This is a beautiful scent. Now, the only issue that I have with this one is that it really doesn't perform that well on my skin. And I don't really have that problem with any of the other AMOUAGE fragrances that I have. But certainly not the ones that I'm going to talk about today. But this one, I only get about 6 hours of complete longevity on my skin. And it goes very close to my skin only after about an hour and a half of wearing it. The only issue that I have with that one, but scent profile wise, it's my favorite of the bunch. Now, I will say this. This really started to really display the new direction that AMOUAGE is kind of going in. You don't get those with this one. It's not that really heavy incensey kind of fragrance, not extremely heavy on the spices. A little bit more of a modern take on the AMOUAGE DNA. And honestly, I will say, in my opinion, it's not a bad thing. You know, sometimes change is good. Now, again, for some die-hard, hardcore AMOUAGE fans, they may be a little bit off-put by some of the ways that, in the direction that some of the fragrances are going in, because they do have a little bit more of a mass appeal to them, which is something that, again, some people may have an issue with, but I kind of like it. It still gives you some complex fragrances, some fragrances that are well done and high quality, but again, they do have a little bit more of a mass appeal, what I've noticed with the fragrances that of the latest releases from AMOUAGE. But again, I really like this one. If it performed better, it would be one of my favorites from the entire range of fragrances, but this one is Meander. Now, we did have from the Renaissance collection, Enclave. And this is a spicy, sweet vanilla cinnamon based fragrance right here. And personally, I love it. Now, to me, this one kind of, the spicy sweetness that you get from this one reminds me a little bit of the last one I want to talk about, which is Boundless. But I really like this one, man. This one performs great on my skin. And again, there is some hints of the original AMOUAGE DNA in this fragrance, and a lot of the fragrances that have been released after after Overture Man, but a little bit more of a mass appeal with that sweetness. A lot of fragrance houses now are going with that vanilla and tonka bean kind of sweetness that they're putting in a lot of their fragrances, and that's what they've started to do with AMOUAGE fragrances, because again, the last fragrance that I'm going to talk about, you have that heavy vanillic sweetness that you're going to find in that fragrance. But this is one, it has a nice spearmint opening, which is different. Kind of reminds me in a way of Memoir Man, because it has that nice minty opening, and then it dries down to your spices. And of course, it's heavy on vanilla and cinnamon in this fragrance, but I love this stuff right here. So check it out, performs well on my skin as well. This one is called Enclave. All right, guys, and the last fragrance that I want to talk about today, again, the latest release, one of the latest releases, again, this one is called Boundless. Boundless, similar presentation from Meander and Enclave. You have the flap, and you open it up like this. The fragrance rests here, magnetic closure. And this one right here, guys, if you love tobacco, this features a beautiful note of tobacco, primarily in bourbon vanilla. I think there may be a little cacao in this fragrance as well. It's really sweet as it dries down. But man, this thing is gorgeous in the winter time. And again, they tried to kind of keep along the tradition of the old AMOUAGE fragrances. They do have some incense here, which to me is the trademark of AMOUAGE fragrances, to have incense. But again, it has a little bit more of that more mass appeal to it than a lot of the other offerings that came before it under the old direction of Christopher Chong. But if you like tobacco, if you like vanilla, then this is going to be your fragrance from AMOUAGE. It's really, really good. Again, another fragrance that, you know, in keeping with the AMOUAGE tradition, to me, very well done. Very high quality ingredients used again. But it's going in a little bit more of a different direction with the sweetness in these fragrances, because you didn't see AMOUAGE fragrances in the past that really used notes like vanilla or tonka or cacao. That's something new. It's a little bit more modern, but to me, again, it's not a bad change. It's not a bad change. Overall, I think they're doing a good job in the new direction that they're going in with their fragrances. And again, it's a house that I love, and I'm still enjoying the fragrance offerings that I have in my collection, even the latest releases from this particular house. But all right, guys, that's it. That's my time. I hope you enjoyed this video today as I talked about 5 of the latest releases from the house of AMOUAGE, and I kind of answered the question for you Are they still worth it? Are they still good fragrances? Which in my opinion, they are. You have some hints of the old AMOUAGE mixed in with a little bit more modern take, a little more sweeter elements that were not present before, but I still think they're doing a great job on the new creative direction of RENAUD Salmon. As always, I appreciate your time and your attention to these videos because, of course, you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with me, and I sincerely appreciate that. And don't forget to take a few moments to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you share these videos out to some other folks that you think could use this information or find it entertaining, because I'm your guy, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.